Senator Crandell.
No one here by that name.
Senator Farley.
Mr. Chairman, explain that. I want to thank Representative Lesko, Senator McComish, Representative Gray, and most of all, Governor Brewer for her leadership on this issue and her vision on this issue. I think it's absolutely clear that everyone in this room has a strong vested interest in making sure that we are ready to take part in the Marketplace Fairness Act. Absolutely has to happen. That is so much more important that we get this bill through this year than any of the problems that we may have with it. We have to come together to make this work. And I think the governor is committed to that, and I'm very grateful for that to happen. I understand that there's a lot of fear out there when you make changes that are this sweeping and this strong. But I think this is one of a wave of changes we're going to have to make because we realize that living in the 21st century, we can't just use 20th century models for our revenues anymore. I've talked a lot about the gas tax as being something that's outliving its usefulness. I think the same thing is happening with our retail sales tax. And I think this is a great step to make that happen. Our brick and mortar retailers in this state are being hurt dramatically with a nearly 10% price disadvantage to online retailers because we're not collecting that sales tax. And we know that we're going to be able to get that tax right away if we create a bill that is going to conform with that. We've got to make it happen. And I know there are some serious problems from the city's perspective with how the revenues are going to be distributed. But number one, if you look at the TPT structure the way it is today, would any one of us vote for that? It is a mess. No one in their right minds would ever do it. If we voted for it on the floor, we'd get voted out of office, and you'd vote us out of office for voting for it. There are a lot of flaws there. Clearly, there's things we don't know about what the next model will be as we move forward to amend this bill. But it can't be any worse. We will find ways of adapting to it. And this is not an aside that's irrelevant, even though it may seem so at the first. But in my summer reading list last summer, I read a book that I recommend to everybody. It may be unexpected. It's called America's Game by Michael McCambridge. It's a history of the NFL. And this is relevant. It's not just a history of the players and the games, which is a part of it. It's great, but it's mostly a history of the business and how the NFL became the #1 sport in America and threatening to be in the world. And it really happened when Pete Rozelle took over in 1959, and in 1960 he made the decision, which was gutsy, to decide to convince the big rich teams that were doing really well in the big markets to do a radical revenue sharing proposal with even the little teams like Green Bay, who had 30,000 people in their market. And because they did this, because they reached out, and under the leadership of Pete Rozelle, like we're looking under the leadership of Governor Brewer, we can convince those cities that have high growth and low growth, those cities that are large and small, to figure out how they can best divide up the pie, because some people will win, some people will lose. If you divide it up together, we all win. And you know what happened with the NFL after that. It is huge, and the money was unbelievable that came in after, and we can follow that model. We can make it work. So I'm excited that we're moving this thing on. I'm excited that we're continuing to make it happen. There will be stuff that we will need to change in order to make it work. But I charge all of you in this room and beyond this room to do what we can to enact this bill this year, no matter what our differences may be right now. So I vote aye.